Another go around to Soccer's morning show, and you knew it was going to happen. Absolutely. Usually happens, about once a week? About once a week in these cases. Soccer's morning show, Tuesday Thoughts. John here, you there. And welcome to another round of Soccer Down here. We've got some breaking news this morning. We'll get into that. It's both of it has to do with what's going on in the U.S. One's on the women's side, one's on the men's side. Got a lot of stuff to get into this morning. It is looks like we know who the head of the table is going to be for the alleged apparent San Diego bid for Major League Soccer. We've got all of the championship stuff that happened over the weekend. I know that folks wanted to talk about Barca winning, so Barca won. We'll get into that. We've got stupidity over there with pitch invasions, and now you've got trying to track down what players might be able to do legally in situations like that when you have morons storming onto the field. Morning, Will. I do, Michael. I do. I do. And there's nothing wrong with earnest conversation either. Morning, Coco. So we've got VAR and Howard Webb showing up on television in England. We know that at the current rate, it probably will never happen with Major League Soccer, but it did make for an interesting dynamic. We've got your officials for the matches on Tuesday, and if we've got our TV assignments, we'll get into that. So there's plenty to talk about this morning. And we've got opening kickoff, once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. We got into that. And so, yes, exactly. That is that. And Jason, you are right on with the first story of the morning. Before we get into opening kickoff, you know how we always say that it is always BBC Cruton? It's always B Cruton. Apparently, the USMNT is enjoying that notion. They are enjoying the idea of treating it like it is something that you're supposed to do 24/7, 365. And sure enough, it happened. So, naturally, since it is the beginning of the show, we're not even getting into opening kickoff, folks, and we're playing this. Folarin Balogun has declared to the USMNT. Once again, wasting no time this morning. Decided to represent the USMNT, switching his allegiance. Balogun took his time. Decision's been made. Not England, the United States. FIFA has approved the one-time switch. 19 goals, 34 matches on loan at Reims from Arsenal. He was within the England Youth International setup. But Folarin Balogun has declared for the USMNT. Last week, he had a goal against Lens. I know that that's a bit of a shock. Folarin Balogun proving what he's able to do in Ligue 1. But Folarin Balogun on the table for the USMNT. We always talk about always be BC Cruton. Always be Cruton. Folarin Balogun now part of the USMNT. So there you go. The other piece of breaking news this morning comes from the leagues that we cover on a normal basis. And this is a bit of a longer story. That it's going to take a little bit of setup. So, because it is something that does take a little bit of time. There we go. So, that's what happens when you don't take it out of loop. That's totally on me. So I almost lucked into hitting the music on the right part. The USL, and we'll probably get into these discussions with the franchises as they go. The USL has announced that the USL Super League they have their initial markets. It's the new professional women's league committed to US D1 standards. Initially, it was supposed to be D2 standards, D1 standards. Legends, Octagon, and Sport 5 supporting the Super League commercial and media interests out of Tampa this morning, set to kick off not this August, but 15 months from now, August of 2024. Intending to launch as a first division league, and this is part of the league release, So you'll hear a lot of leaguees here. Reflecting the commitment to the highest standards in American soccer and a collective vision to be a global leader in women's soccer on and off the field, they will follow the U.S. soccer sanctioning process. Super League helps address the opportunity gap between men's and women's professional soccer in the United States. Home of the world's most successful women's national team, currently 101 professional men's soccer teams and 12 professional women's soccer teams in the U.S. Quoting USL CEO Alec Papadakis. Another major milestone for USL as we take another step in building an integrated women's soccer network unlike any other. And once again, this is direct quoting from Papadakis. Our aim is to make the USL Super League globally recognized and admired for its financial stability, operational excellence, community building, and high-level competition. We are establishing and growing our national footprint while ensuring that all our teams are owners or primary tenants of a soccer stadium. We are aligning our calendar and roster rules with the global game. So you've got all of that. You've got that you can stare at this morning. So we're efforting a Tuesday visit. So with the breaking news here, I'm going to try and do about 95 different things. And let's see. All right. So yes, with the breaking news, you got to tell folks what's going on. And so here's what we're staring at. I'm trying to effort at the same time that we are discussing things. So as I talk about the USL Super League, we're efforting Bart Keeler. Bart has done the Kool-Aid entrance, and he's like, I want to come on. It's like, okay, so you can come on. USL Super League, 10 to 12 teams in its inaugural 24 season. First of the group is listed below. Coming months, USL is going to announce additional markets whose clubs will play in the inaugural season, additional markets for future expansion. Charlotte, and it's the Charlotte Independence Group with Jim McPhillamy. Dallas-Fort Worth, led by the Neal family, first professional women's soccer team in Dallas-Fort Worth. Lexington Sporting Club. Phoenix, Arizona, Rising Ownership Group. Spokane, Acus Sports LLC, an investor group led by Spokane natives, the Harnicho family. They're going to play, and it's part of the Spokane group in USL. Tampa Bay, Daryl Shaw, former sports team owner David Laxer, Jeff Fox. So you've got Super League Tampa Bay. They plan to build a soccer-specific stadium for their Super League team. Tucson, John Perlman, U.S. Super League Tucson, so it's FC Tucson's ownership group. D.C., this one's interesting, Attain Sports and Entertainment. And so they are going to be drifting in. Initial markets for subsequent seasons. Chattanooga, the Red Wolves ownership group. Indianapolis, Indy 11 founder Ozal Ozdemir. Jacksonville, it's the USL Jacks group. Madison, Wisconsin, the Forward Madison group. And Oakland, it's the Roots Soul group. So that's what you're getting at with right now with USL Super League dropping by. And so, of course, because of the news this morning, this guy, Bart Keeler, wanted to drop in. Bart, always BBC Cruton. Always BBC Cruton. And so, of course, the USMNT Cruton. And so now it's Folarin Balogun. I set him up. Where are you? Bart, are you there? I hear chirping. Bart, you got your ears on. We'll try it again here in just a little bit. Let me back Bart out. But Bart wanted to talk, and so Will is already singing. Well, all right. So let me see how this. Let me see if this is going to work. My country 'tis of the sweet land of foul. Yeah. Okay. So and everybody, Will is trying to take our nationalistic tunes and turn them into the recruiting of Folarin Balogun. It might be My Country 'Tis of Thee, Sweet Land of Balogun of Thee I Sing. That might be how it works. Yeah. So Will is absolutely screaming at the top of his lungs, and so yeah. So Bart, we're efforting Bart. Yes. So Folarin Balogun is the big news this morning, and Will is excited, among other things, about the Huntsville home kit and reveal. They've got their field name and the stadium and everything. Yeah. So Folarin Balogun is drifting in for the USMNT, and yeah. So very, very busy morning. So Super League, the USL Super League is going to be coming at you from a couple of different places, and it looks like they're going to be continuing to add names for franchises and such, and over time. Okay. So all right. Folarin. Okay. All right. So Will is definitely trying to make sure that My Country 'Tis of Thee is laid up in the Folarin Balogun efforts. And so the international calendar, I think, was big as a part of this. Super League President Amanda Vandervoort told the Athletic article by Steph Yang, decision to go for D1 sanctioning instead of the originally planned D2 has been in conversation for quite a while. Declined to say whether the delay from 23 to 24 was related to that conversation. Vandervoort did say that in pushing the league's original announcement, they had the time to build more infrastructure under the Super League, in terms of establishing the pre-professional W League, which launched in 22, goes from 44 to 65 teams. And so that's where that is with that stage. All right, Bart, you got your ears on. Bart?
There it is. Sorry.
There it
is. Shoddy internet connection, I got so excited, John. I am so excited, John.
The internet is trying to keep you from discussing about Cruton, sir.
Oh my goodness, it's trying to keep me from being. Oh my gosh, John, this is the best news U.S. soccer has had in a very, very long time. Oh my lord, this is.
The man cannot contain his excitement.
This is huge. This is massive.
All right, so bring everyone forward in this conversation. So we know the talent that is attached to Folarin Balogun, but for those who might be the casual USMNT fan that may not necessarily understand A, what he is capable of, and B, the significance of it, let's bring everyone along in this conversation and break down what Folarin Balogun can mean to the USMNT and what he does as a talent.
Well, I think the first thing is that he is a complete striker, right? He is able to play the ball with his feet, play the ball with his head, play off players running onto him, play out on his own right. He connects. He can finish on his own. He is so complete and rounded in the way that he plays that position, which is perfect for the modern game of football that we're trying to play, That is the first thing, right? I think the other thing, too, is that he is, in my opinion, already multiple steps ahead of any other striker we have in our pool in terms of development and professional experience, professional success. He's still only 21,
Yep.
But he just feels light years ahead of any other striker we have in our pool. And that's kind of where I think the biggest plus comes from this recruiting is he is already multiple steps ahead in his own progression and his own development than Josh Sargent, Ricardo Pepi, Haji Wright, those guys.
And the reason that I wanted, because Fourcart was wondering who Folarin Balogun is. KFC is trying to come up with comparisons like maybe a Josie Altidore in his prime. Are there accurate comparisons?
No, I don't think it's a Josie thing. Josie was slightly different, but yeah, I mean, the idea that he can do a lot of things on and off the ball is very similar to Josie. Mm-hmm. He's just crisper, cleaner than Josie ever was. I think that's the biggest thing.
So, I mean, this has been, I guess we can go back to 3GB as a part of this discussion here, where Greg Berhalter made it a point to chase after dual nationals. And it was something that was not active in the previous processes with the USMNT manager. It's just like, okay, here's who we have. Our walls are shut. We're not going over any borders. Whoever's whatever's U.S. whoever is North Dakota to Texas and Seattle to Key West and Augusta, Maine to San Diego. That's it. That's who we are. But with Greg Berhalter decided, much like college football, Bart, always be BC Cruton. And you see those dual nationals, and it's like, hey, look, you want a chance to play and represent a country that you have a tie to. Here's that chance. And this is another one of these instances where you're bringing in somebody who is talented as all ish, and you're bringing him back to be a part of things with the USMNT. And it's something that only recently I think that folks are grasping. It's like, look, you can do this. You can bring in folks. You can actively recruit to improve your stead because of ties. And you're getting elements like Folarin Balogun to be a part of this next wave, especially once again. We sit there and we have 26 as this big banner that's attached to this country, to this hemisphere. And what a better way to continue to promote this than to bring in talented individuals who are dual nationals and sit there and say, hey, look, we know this is big. Let's go chase after big dogs. And they're doing that, and they've done that since only really Greg Berhalter.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the U.S. has always been a team that's needed dual nationals because of the stunted timeline of soccer development in this country, right? I mean, we've had dual nationals play for this national team for as long as I can remember watching. But I think the concerted effort to go recruit started under Klinsmann and did ramp up under Berhalter. Targeted recruiting, because before then it was, oh yeah, I have a U.S. passport or I have U.S. ties. I want to come play for you. Now it's become a lot more targeted. And we're luckily at a point in our development where a guy like Balogun significantly improves our national team. Mm-hmm. But we don't need a national team made up of these guys who just have a mom or a grandfather who happens to be American. We're able to develop players on our own. But getting a guy like this, I mean, even the backup striker, Ricardo Pepi, is a perfect example of sometimes you do have to go recruit that guy because you just know that they make you so much better. And I mean, look, it's been a couple of months of not fantastic news coming from the U.S. soccer men's side of things, from the end of the World Cup till Matt Crocker got hired. And even then that was kind of just okay, thank God we can move forward type of news.
Right, about time.
This is unmitigated joyful news.
So Coco brings up the question, and maybe you can help in this, or at least come up with the ideas. Coco, so if you don't have an official manager, is the substitute teacher a part of the Cruton? Who is Del McGee in this process, sir? Who is being?
I mean, it's been Anthony Hudson. I think, I think that's the best answer. Is it's Anthony Hudson. I do think that there's been some level of JT Batson's involvement, but as far as we know, it's still Anthony Hudson. I mean, he has continued anyway the efforts that Berhalter started. I mean, Anthony was the only U.S. men's soccer dude out there who could have these connections. I mean, we had the U20 and U17 coaches who, I don't know if they were a part of this at all. Especially U17 coach was busy winning, playing a CONCACAF championship, and the U20 coach, Mikey Varas, is focused on that group and the World Cup they have that starts Saturday. So it's been Anthony Hudson. Probably with a little help of JT Batson and Cindy Parlow Cohen from above, but it's been Anthony Hudson. But also and I think maybe more importantly, it's been the players. I think that's something that is markedly different in these recruitings that we've seen from Greg Berhalter since he started. Is Greg has recruited them in the way that he's kept constant communication, the same that he has done with, he had done with a lot of the players in the pool. But it's been the players who have really recruited each other, if you will, because they're the best sell for the program that exists right now. Forecard, you're thinking too narrow there, man. He's lifting a CONCACAF Nations League trophy after smacking Mexico and Canada back to back. That's what's happening this summer. That happens next month. Folarin Balogun reclaims authority and autonomy over Canada for both the United States and Great Britain. That's what's happening. Knocking them down a peg, freaking pretending they're the top dogs in CONCACAF. That's what's going to happen. This isn't Gold Cup. What's a Gold Cup? No, this is Nations League. We're beating the snot out of the best teams from Mexico and Canada. That's what's happening.
This is where Will needs to bring the national anthem in underneath you as you
screeching eagles with the national anthem.
According to Ali Rampling at The Athletic, Balogun traveled to Orlando where the U.S. were training during the international window. Interim coach Anthony Hudson admitted, quote, discussions had taken place with the forward during March's international break, adding that it was, quote, an opportunity to share about our program, end quote. Speaking after announcing his squad for March's international fixtures, England manager Gareth Southgate said Balogun would have to be patient regarding a call-up to the senior side, quote, and I can't do a Gareth Southgate, so it's going to have to be a straight quote. It is up to the player to weigh up where his heart feels. Is he prepared to wait a little bit for an opportunity if he backs himself and feels he can push his way into our squad? Because anybody who has followed us will know that we will give young players a chance. So we cannot go and give first-team call-ups to someone just because we don't want them to go somewhere else, end quote. Balogun made 4 appearances for the U18s in 2018 before going to represent England at various youth levels. U.S. next in action June 16th in Nations League. Gold Cup is between the 24th and July 16th. So, yeah, the Ali Rampling at The Athletic says it was conversations with Anthony Hudson. Anthony Hudson had him tour the house. And it's like, what do you think about this foyer, Folarin Balogun? Well, how would you like to? This is the tour of the house. So what do you think of the house? And Folarin Balogun's like, I'll buy it. So Anthony Hudson apparently was the lead real estate agent here, and love it or list it for Folarin Balogun.
It's credit to Anthony Hudson for selling the program, and again, credit to guys like Pulisic and McKinney and others who told him, like, yeah, this is worth a place worth being. Mm-hmm. Because I think that means more than just the coach, especially an interim coach. I mean, right. I think Hudson is still able to explain the vision of the program because it won't change. I mean, I think that's something that people need to realize. The vision of the program is going to be the same from when Berhalter was here to now with Hudson and even after Hudson. The goal is to play modern progressive soccer and go win a World Cup in 2026. That's still the overall goal, right?
Right.
Balogun wants to be part of that. He doesn't want to be part of an England team that doesn't value him. I think that's the biggest thing. As Hudson showed that he could be valued here, the players showed that they would value his presence here, and that ultimately is probably what wins it for these guys. I mean, how did Georgia recruit? What's his name? The quarterback they just got, even though Kirby Smart has no idea how to coach an athletic dual threat quarterback.
Dylan Raiola, yeah.
Raiola, thank you. Kirby still got him. I mean, he'll be in the transfer portal after a year, but it's still a matter of showing them that they can be valued here and that they can belong here. And Hudson was able to do that very clearly.
All right. So then if you are the lead recruiter for the USMNT, if you are some combination of Hudson, Batson, and whomever else you want to put into that law firm, are there any other dual nationals right now whose lives are hanging in the sporting balance that you would sit there and go get that guy now?
Well, I think the one that everyone has kind of talked about was Tim Tillman, who as far as I know, has already completed that switch. He did that earlier this month. That doesn't mean I think he'll be necessarily called up to the Nations League. I'm curious how that goes because it's going to be tough for Tillman to break into that first choice midfield. That also depends on who's healthy and not. But I think Tillman's the next guy that you try to integrate because you already have Malik, his younger brother, who hasn't necessarily proved to be like the most dynamic player for the U.S., but he's also very young and has only had a couple of appearances. So I think that will be the next guy that you see come in that's a dual national. But, again, that may have a lot more to do with the fact that the players are recruiting him. Malik, his younger brother's recruiting him. I'm sure Kellen Acosta, who he plays next to every single week at LA, has told him about the good things that he can accomplish with the U.S. And those things matter, especially for a guy who really didn't have another national team choice. I know Germany is technically his other one, but let's be a little realistic here.
All right, so then let's take this to its next step. If you're filling out a lineup card, what is your lineup card now with the Folarin Balogun up top? In perfect world of perfect worlds, everybody's healthy. You're not worried about niggles or knocks or anything like that.
Yeah.
What is your lineup now with Balogun under the 10?
Well, I don't think it's changed much, John. I think it's just you put Balogun as your striker, right? You still have Turner in goal. You still have probably Dest. I'm putting Miles and Chris in the back line, Chris Richards, and then Anthony Robinson on the left. Midfield, a trio of Adams, Musa, McKinney. I don't think that's changed much. Maybe you put Reyna in there, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to get the best out of this particular group. We'll see. And then for me, my starting strikers up top are Tim Weah, Christian Pulisic, and then your striker is Folarin Balogun. I mean, that's just where we're at. I don't think this changes much of anything other than he's now your starting striker, especially because apparently Ricardo Pepi just got pulled from a game today before the first half ended because he's hurt. Oops. So that's not great. But I think Pepi, for me, has proven that he would have been the starter come Nations League time. I don't think that Sargent has done enough at the Champions in the championship, but Pepi has done really well. So I think you're still looking at bringing Pepi, Sargent, and Balogun if Pepi's healthy.
Contributor Niall says that the U.S. lineup is looking scarier now. How much scarier is this lineup with him as a part of this process?
Well, let me ask you, John, what do you think the most frustrating part of the World Cup qualifying cycle was? No, seriously, what was the most frustrating part of the World Cup qualifying cycle?
Lack of productivity
right.
from up top.
We weren't scoring goals. We had, Canada outperformed their XG for and against. That was, why they got lucky throughout the entire cycle. That is not a replicable pattern, as we saw what happened to them when they played good teams in the World Cup. They get smacked. Mm-hmm. But the U.S. massively underperformed their XG for and against. So Balogun immediately gives you hope that we're going to actually score, which you can't say necessarily. And also, as much as Pepi was our leading scorer from the striker standpoint, he didn't score a goal after the Honduras game, or after the not the Honduras game, after the Jamaica home game. That was October.
Yes.
So, it's just one of those we've struggled. Now, granted, I think a lot of that had to do with Greg Berhalter not knowing how to coach a team to get a striker to score, which was the problem. The other problem was he insisted that Giassi Zardes was fit for international competition, which was the most asinine thing I think we can say he did the entire cycle. But Balogun gives you the legitimate, unquestioned, in my opinion, starting striker, which we didn't have. We didn't even have really at the World Cup, right? I think we all knew it was Sargent, but I don't know if he sparked a whole lot of confidence. So that's where this becomes scarier, is who your starting striker is. Just like, in my opinion, who your starting left winger is. Who your starting goalkeeper is. Those things, having known quantities, are good. Mm-hmm. Because everyone knows what that level is they need to be.
Yeah, no doubt. Kefsey with an Arsenal-ish comparison question for Balogun. Kefsey wants to know, is Balogun Henry-like, Aubameyang-like, Giroud-like, or none of the above?
I mean, I think if you ask Balogun, he'd say he's most like Thierry Henry, who he models a lot of his celebrations after. I think he's a little bit more of the Aubameyang type, but I think he's somewhere between Henry and Aubameyang. He's not Giroud. He's not as handsome, which is, the one thing we have to admit.
Yes. Your baseline for comparisons.
But no, Giroud was a pure finisher in the way that Henry and Aubameyang were able to create more for themselves, and that's kind of where Balogun is. He's still a finisher. Don't get me wrong, but he is able to at least create some on his own.
One more question for you before I believe you probably go back into the real world.
Yeah, the joy has to subside at some point, and I have to actually do work.
Yeah, before you come back in for your Wednesday segment at 10:30. One more question for you from Coco. How do things change on how we view Aronson, Adams, and McKinney if Leeds gets relegated?
I don't think you change anything about that, because I think, if anything, Tyler Adams' absence has proven how valuable he was to Leeds. I think so. For that, I don't think that changes anything. We still see him very well. McKinney, I don't know. I think McKinney was at a really good spot for himself at Juve in terms of the level. The team itself, not a good spot. Nick Alifi can, rant about that. Yeah. But I think the physical, the actual situation, the team he was a part of, the level he was playing at was pretty good. And so if they get relegated, McKinney won't be there. So that's not a problem.
Right.
And I don't think Adams will stay.
Yeah.
McKinney definitely won't be there. I'm pretty sure that's part of his contract. I don't know if he goes back to Juve, but I would imagine also Juve tries to sell him because he's valuable enough. I could see him going back to the Bundesliga. Mm-hmm. I could see him staying in Serie A and going to a team that isn't, mired in some sort of conspiracy every other month. But I don't think McKinney's stock changes any. And honestly, if you want to be brutally honest about Brendan Aronson, the championship might be the level where he's at.
Yeah.
I think that he succeeded at Salzburg. That's not the league that's as competitive as the Prem. It's certainly not even as competitive as the championship in terms of just total number of good teams. So maybe if you're Brendan, you go look for, a spot back at Salzburg. Maybe you go try to play in Netherlands, a slightly step down, quote, from the top league that you were just in, but still somewhere where you can play first division football. Mm-hmm. So that would be what I would say. I don't think it's changing if you're going to be brutally honest with who Brendan Aronson is as a player.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, the bringing in of Folarin Balogun, Bart is at 11 billion on the.
I'm at a full 9, John. I think that it's not the, oh my gosh, we're winning a World Cup, but it is this is a massive get. And this is a huge positive piece of news for U.S. soccer.
It's a B+.
It's a B+, A-. It's definitely it's an A-. We'll give it an A-.
So
a 3 point, what is that? A 3.7 on the GPA scale, I think is what that was.
No doubt. All right. So I'm guessing now. I guess the question is: are you going to do a special breaking news vignette over at the site for USP?
Well, we might have to now, because we were planning to talk about U20 World Cup and just kind of explain what was going on and what it means. But this might have to take precedent over that, because the U20 World Cup now is, it happens Saturday. Do watch 2 p.m. We start, but this is definitely bigger news. John, one more piece of breaking news-ish. You may have covered it, but the USL Super League, the women's first division football league that they're bringing, that will start August 2024. I don't know if you talked about this. Atlanta, not a part of it, unfortunately.
Not yet.
I'm curious. I have 2 questions about them. One is, when you say first division, mm-hmm. does that mean you're competing directly with NWSL? Because if so, I have some questions. And secondly, I love the fact that they state a professional pathway, a pathway to professional soccer, I think is what they called it, meaning that there's going to be an emphasis on academy development, which we haven't seen from NWSL. So just want people to have that on their radar. Charlotte's getting a team. A lot of these are associated with USL teams. So Charlotte being associated with Charlotte Independence will play at the renovated Mecklenburg American Legion Stadium, which actually looks really nice and looks like a very fantastic place to play soccer. Tampa, obviously getting one with the USL team there. Phoenix and Tucson, a little interesting. They're putting 2 teams in Arizona. But I think this is a positive. I don't know how you tell me that it's directly competing with NWSL, but I think having a legitimate option that isn't NWSL is good.
All right. So two early thoughts on the Super League. They are going international calendar, fall to summer schedule, and they are also not going to have a college draft. So that is that.
Yeah, which I think if you ask a lot of NWSL fans, the college draft has been well, shoot, if you ask a lot of MLS fans, they probably don't believe that the college draft is all that useful.
Well, and I mean, if you think about what the NWSL has done, all you have to do is look at Barcenas, Ricketts, and Thompson.
Yeah.
And that should be your answer.
Yeah. I mean, I'll add Michelle Cooper a little bit to that too, but I mean, she did come out of college, so maybe not quite the same. But yeah, I mean, I think this is emphasizing that academy development structure, in my opinion, where we're not relying on college. Because here's the thing about college. You can go to a trial with any club you want, you know, if you're a good club, you're scouting the college game. There's a lot of talent there. It's just not always ready for professionals, but yeah. Parzival, I think that I don't have time to talk about that question, but I would love to because I've been wanting.
Tomorrow at 10:30 is about.
John, I've been wanting to write a piece for Soccer Down Here about this because I think it does require college to me, and I'll just sum it up because it fits into that. College to me is still a valuable development time, especially for a lot of women's soccer players. Let's be real honest.
Yeah.
Because they unfortunately get into the high level quality soccer a little bit later than the boys do, for a lot of reasons that, again, we don't have time to get into. But it's not devaluing, no, because there's still the value of playing in college and more importantly, receiving a college education. But if you want to be an actual professional footballer, like Alyssa Thompson, who, by the way, posted prom pictures from Saturday and is going to be going to the World Cup in June or in July. Like that's my hot prediction, is she'll be on that roster, which she should be because she's balling out. Thompson, it doesn't make sense for her. You mentioned Barcenas. You mentioned you could talk Olivia Moultrie, even who kind of set that tone. No, for those people, it doesn't make sense. You know, for some though, it does. I mean, I'll put out, and I'm. You know, Atlanta United has done very well to create a pathway to college for a lot of their academy products, because that's still a goal for a lot of people. And it's a good way to have a secondary goal. If your goal is to, I mean, guys I played with, our goal was obviously to go pro, but like that doesn't happen as frequently. You still have that college level that you can go to. So, you know, I don't think it's devalued. I think it's just you're looking at college versus pro as a different, it's a different path.
Yeah.
And some people are in that pro path, some people are not, and that's okay. And that's what I think that the Super League is hoping to identify, right? Is that type of college is still valuable, but it's not the main way that we're going to try to get players ready for professional soccer. And I think that is a plus when we're talking about kind of revolutionizing the way that we develop players in the U.S., both men's and women's.
Yeah. Steph Yang's article at The Athletic is going to be your required reading for the day if you have a subscription to The Athletic. Lack of a draft is in keeping with the USL ethos around developing youth pathways and earlier announcements about their girls' academy. USL said it will not use age banding in its academy teams as part of an if you're good enough, you're old enough mindset. in addition to what we've seen from the NWSL. Amanda Vandervoort said Super League intends to be competitive on player salaries. Current NWSL men is 36-4. So,
I mean, well, again, we'll see. I am curious how they truly become a competitive Division I option to NWSL. I am curious how that comes around. However,
let me ask you this: if your schedules are different, if the USL Super League is international calendar and the NWSL is their calendar, are you truly competitive? Are you truly competing against each other?
Yes and no, John. I think yes, because you're fighting for that recognition, first off, right? And the NWSL has, 10 years of recognition, as well as buy-in from the U.S. Women's National Team Players Association. Obviously, we know that relationship between U.S. Soccer and NWSL doesn't exist anymore, but there's still the I don't know, tacit relationship, if you will.
Yeah.
But I am curious. I think that might be one way that they're able to lure some of those players, is because a lot of those girls do go from NWSL ending and going to half-season contracts in, Women's Super League and France or in England, the French Division One. They do go on these kind of loans or half-season contracts. So to your point, yeah, I mean, it could be interesting if you have some players who go from NWSL ending in October to picking up with a USL Super League club after that, going through the end of that season. We'll see. I'm curious because NWSL has set that standard. It does feel a little, and we've seen this again from second division leagues. Remember the NASL from the mid 2010s. It did not end well. But I think USL Super League, because they have the USLW League. That's kind of where I'm like, okay, you have the W League, which has been the second division for soccer and women's soccer in this country.
Yep.
This is obviously the division above that.
Yep.
Is it okay? Will they be okay? Will they still be able to survive if they are not in WSL?
Yeah. So we'll get into that. I know the real world intervenes as it always does.
Yeah,
you're back with us. You're back with us in 24 hours and 45 minutes.
About that. Yeah, looking at it now. Just wanted to. But thanks, John. This was exciting. This is like, again, the first time we've had legitimately just unbridled joy when it comes to the U.S. men's soccer team in a while, and really U.S. women's soccer team, because they've been a little bit painful to talk about.
Yeah, true. But Bart, the format of this show when there is.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with jumping in to talk about it because of the mere fact that it is, then you've got to talk about it. And so there's absolutely nothing wrong with coming in and crashing a show and taking the rundown and throwing it in the toilet. That's the beauty of a morning show, is that it comes in, you've got breaking news, you talk about breaking news. So I will see you tomorrow morning at 10:30 for your normal slot. We can continue to talk about Parzival's question about getting to a point about devaluing college and going pro and all the other things and the fallout and all that other kind of stuff. So get out of here, go to work, and don't get fired.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the fun.
Happy Folarin Balogun Day for all.
Happy Folarin Balogun Day to all who celebrate.
For those who celebrate, get out of here. Bye. Bart Keeler. All right. So yes, happy Folarin Balogun Day for all of you who celebrate. But yeah, we are also efforting USL for Jack COO Steve Livingston. And maybe we'll have him Thursday. It might be on tape. We'll find out, and we'll ask Steve some questions about USL, W League, Super League, and all of that kind of stuff. The other parts of the Steph Yang article, so as not to completely spoil it, but Amanda Vandervoort, happy with what she's seeing in a couple of W League markets. If you've seen the photos from the Seoul debut out in Oakland, where they had a crammed home debut for 5,800. Looked like it was standing room only in a doubleheader with the Roots, which I think is very, very smart packaging also to try and get a product out in its first season, to have it as simply as a doubleheader. And whenever the day comes that Atlanta has professional women's soccer here in this market where we're based, doing doubleheader days at Mercedes-Benz Stadium with the women's team and the men's team. I think that would be cool. I mean, don't do it every single time, but I think that maybe on those days when you want to when you're opening up the whole stadium and you've got a rivalry game or something, and you bring in like LAFC or whomever, and you have the whole stadium open it up early, have a women's match as a part of that doubleheader, and I think it'd be pretty sweet. 4,700 showed up for Detroit City's home opener against Flint City. Minnesota Aurora, you'll remember them last year as South Georgia Tormenta went to Minnesota Aurora for the W League title. That place was packed out. It was sold out. Multiple sellouts there for the Aurora last year. 6,200 were there last year as Tormenta went to Minnesota to win the title in USLW. Regular season average of over 5,000 for Minnesota Aurora. You're looking at comparable numbers in NWSL teams. You're looking at the Courage, Gotham, and the Pride, all under an average of 5. But then you look at what Angel City is doing at BMO. You look at what San Diego Wave are doing at Snapdragon, and the numbers are there in those markets. And so, you're looking right now at, and Bart mentioned it with venue size, American Legion Memorial in Charlotte's 10-5. Phoenix Rising's new stadium at 38th and the corner of 38th and Washington seats 10,000. Toyota Stadium in Georgetown for Lex SC hosts 5. So there's opportunities there to be your own self. And then I think that the other part of this, Amanda Vandervoort agreed, a good broadcast deal is going to be key for more financial stability. And so trying to find that. So that's what you're staring at right now with the USL Super League, and we'll get into that. And so Will wants an Atlanta or a Huntsville women's team, and I think that if Hunt City, and especially with the match coming up this weekend, that you could end up with games at Joe Davis where you could have as many folks watching Jack Collison's group as a potential women's side. So I think that Huntsville, if you build that better mousetrap, then you can prove to everybody else that, yes, you can have this kind of thing. Parzival. Yeah, I know. Well, Parzival, here's what I'm saying. And Parzival, thank you for saying how great it would have doubleheader days. And however, MLS, and this is Parzival, however, MLS can't make good schedules now, let alone trying to coordinate 4 teams on the same day in the same place. Well, I mean, the NWSL would be a separate whatever league. Let's put it this way. Whatever league, and we, obviously the lean in would be toward the NWSL. But insert professional women's soccer league here. All they would have to do is work around the MLS schedule. So let's say you get that 7:39 kick, and Mercedes-Benz has, they have multiple locker rooms and all that kind of stuff. So the locker rooms and the access wouldn't be a problem. If you did it at, say, 4:30, I know. And KFC, I know, certainly tough with the 7:30 game day rituals leading in conflict with earlier kick. I would say, and that's why I said don't do it every single time. Do it like when you're going to open the building for 80,000 or whatever. Have a 4:30 nationally televised or a 4:08 nationally televised game with the Phoenix. Do that at 4:08. They're out by 6. And then everything from 6 on is getting you ready for the 7:39 kick for Major League Soccer. So if you did a 4:08 kick, traditional television, 4:06, 4:08, and you were out by 6 for your broadcast plan, and then focus the rest of it, or just back time everything that you needed to do for an Atlanta United match at Mercedes-Benz. So, and Jason, the way that I'll say it is this: Arthur Blank has gone on the record without prodding that he wants women's soccer. So I would say that the Phoenix would be a part of this process, and whatever league they're in, do it at a 4:08 kick on a Saturday afternoon with a full house, an anticipated full house of getting to 80,000 for your 7:39 kick. Don't do it every time. Maybe the first time that you have a home match and a couple of others, like when you're going to pack the building, that kind of thing. Yeah, don't do it every single time because you want the women's team to have its own identity and its own traditions and its own space. But a couple of times, have a couple of home dates that are doubleheaders and have 80,000 folks screaming behind that Atlanta franchise in the league of the future. So, so like I said, it's a thought. You do it for promotional purposes. Your first ever home match, a couple of other matches down the line when the building is full, those kinds of things. So, that, like I said, that's just me and wanting it to be as blown up as humanly possible. So I think that would be, I think it'd be hilarious. I think it'd be awesome. I want to say, here's what I think. We've seen the crowds at Snapdragon. And we'll get into refereeing in just a bit. We'll get into reffing down here also tomorrow because we may save the Howard Webb discussion for reffing down here tomorrow with Bart, considering that Howard Webb appeared on British television to break down things that he was seeing with PGMOL and VAR and all that kind of stuff. We ain't seeing that anytime soon in this country, but it was interesting to see it in England. What I would love is whatever the number is for professional soccer, whatever that highest attendance figure is for professional soccer, which I think is at Snapdragon from earlier this year. As Mercedes-Benz is structured right now in the lower bowl, you fill up the lower bowl, you set a record. Open up the whole thing and see where you go. Because I think 42.5 or 42.3, I think, is the lower bowl, if I'm not mistaken, for Mercedes-Benz. Blow it up. Blow it up. Absolutely blow it up. So we'll see what happens. But no, whatever league they're in, it's coming. Obviously, you don't know what the timetable is, but when the moment happens, Arthur Blank will be at the front of the line sitting there going, yep, we want it now, we want it soon, we want it done right. Lower bowl of Mercedes-Benz will get you, I believe, if it's the NWSL, it'll get you an NWSL record like that. Blow the doors off the whole thing. So we'll see. And Parzival, I don't know. And Kefsey, that's part of it too. I think what you want to do is you want to stagger it. Except for those couple of dates where you'd have doubleheaders, stagger it. Your home team's not there, that's when you have yours. And it's the same building anyway. So home team at Mercedes-Benz, lower bowl, 42,000. That's what you do when Atlanta United's on the road. That's when you switch your schedules. Phoenix or whatever the name, they get the home dates when Atlanta United's on the road on the weekends. Absolutely. So no, I'm right there with you. Really would look forward to seeing something like that happen. I know that it will at some point. But that's your discussion for hour number one. The USL Super League is up and running. Like I said, we're efforting our thoughts out of Steve Livingston out of Jacksonville. Hopefully we can set something up with him. If not on the show on Thursday, we'll do something on tape and we'll flip it to the network like we've done with Steve in the past. He's been very, 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 very open and honest about the process of USL to Jacksonville. And, yes, happy Folarin Balogun Day for those of you who serve. And so now that we are in the 10 o'clock hour, it means one thing. It does not mean breaking news. So it is time to cut a promo, and we will most certainly do that right now. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminized Service. Eliminized Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Eliminized Service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminized Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. Lemonize offers a turnkey process, makes it very, very easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that these days. Very green way of going about things without any kind of odor or toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either below us, below the sink, or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach below the sink or above us in the cupboard, we pull out that masking agent. We spray it in the air. There's a reason you call it a masking agent. Because all you're doing is masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Lemonize Service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy. Either buy the cubic foot or parts per million and come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go is the website, and this is where I grab my pen. Go to the website, it's lemonize.com, but after the .com, do us a favor, go /Atlanta to make sure that they know at Lemonize what part of the world that you are requesting their help from so they can help you attack your problems. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, lemonize.com /Atlanta. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a happy Folarin Balogun Day for those who celebrate and serve. We had Bart Keeler on in hour number 1, and we bring on Jarrett Smith for hour number 2. So, Jarrett, you missed a lot in hour number 1. You missed another sign of effective recruiting by U.S. Soccer. We had Bart Keeler on to talk about Folarin Balogun flipping to the United States instead of waiting his turn, like Gareth Southgate said. I mean, this is like
Deion
George
Sanders would never.
Well, this is like Kirby. This is like it's like if you're Dylan Raiola and you're looking at the University of Georgia and you see Brock Vandegrift, Carson Beck, and Gunnar Stockton, and the kid from Connecticut coming in, what do you want to do? Do you want to go ahead and challenge? Do you want to wait your turn, or do you want to go someplace and start? And so Folarin Balogun is flipping, and he's going to be a part of USMNT.
Well, again, Deion Sanders would never, because Deion Sanders just lost the number 1 athlete in the next class to LSU.
Mm-hmm.
He just flipped from Colorado. Which, buddy, that's going to be Colorado's going to be a hell of a case study for the next few years.
That is true. They are, without question.
Yeah.
But
anyway, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Is like I know we make the Cruton jokes, but they're not college kids. Mm-mm. I mean, some of them are of that age,
right? But
yeah. they are professionals, and the big show for your national team only comes around once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then a smaller show once every 2 years.
Yeah.
But the big show only comes around once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to take those opportunities when you can. And if he thinks his best opportunity to get to playing there,
mm-hmm.
It's not a bad decision.
No, yeah,
and you benefit from it. It's more bodies in the pool, and it pushes other players, and that's what you need. And it's the same thing it's the same thing you have with Atlanta. Because I say that because every time I tweet something now, it gets linked back to Atlanta United. And sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes a tweet is just a tweet. But yeah, let's take it back to Atlanta because we can. The same thing when you bring in guys through the academy or to depth, you are ratcheting up competition, because the answer in your brain should not be another guy. It should be understanding that that person is going to push someone else. Mm-hmm. They're going to challenge each other, and that's what you need, especially for that national team where, God knows, you've been trying to figure out the striker position since Jesus wore sandals, basically.
Yes. And he had the choice of sandal, and it's been that long. So Folarin Balogun dropping into USMNT, and one of the things that we have yet to talk about is it looks like now we know who is the head of the bid for number 30 in Major League Soccer with San Diego. And according to Martin Ziegler at the Times, Egyptian billionaire and Tory treasurer Mohammed Mansour is expected to buy the expansion rights for a club in San Diego for $500 million. I mean, $500 million. Ahead of the season, Don Garber had said the announcement would be coming for what city would get the expansion spot. Vegas, Sacramento in the mix. All signs pointing at California. And so they would be playing at Snapdragon after San Diego Wave was founded in 21, joined the league in 22. So now you would have, and apparently there is a discussion that the announcement will be coming on Thursday. And so it's looking like $500 million heading to Major League Soccer. And San Diego Loyal have already come out publicly and said, we ain't going nowhere. So we'll see what happens. Expectation is that the club is to be owned by Mansour and the federally recognized tribe Sikwan Band of the Kumeyaay Nation. And so it's the Sikwans and Mansour. And so Mansour is a majority owner of Nordsjælland in Danish football. And so that could get you your relationships there. Remember Hani Mukhtar coming from Brøndby and coming to Nashville. And so right now, it's looking like San Diego with Mohammed Mansour and the Sikwan tribe is what it's looking like for this particular group now to be dropped in as a franchise number 30 when it comes to Major League Soccer. Total investment $700 million, including academy and staff and all that stuff.
Yeah, the academy is going to be an interesting question to see how they promote it, and to see how they push it, because like Atlanta's pushed their academy. You're starting to see more returns from them. Your mileage will vary with academy,
yes,
but you don't know until you try. Every class is different. Philadelphia got kind of a late start in their life with their academy, but now it's churning out guys. Dallas turns out guys. You want to know two teams that I'm really curious about watching for academy reasons is how does Minnesota, since they were so late into the game, getting theirs started.
Yes.
And then another one, honestly, that I'm really interested in seeing is Nashville, because I don't know how much Nashville has put into their academy.
Right.
They've just kind of been there, but I don't know how much they've put into it. And and you're going to get to a point where, you would love to just develop you would love to be able to develop somebody who can be an anchor from your academy for 5-10 years. But even if you're just supplementing your roster with it, I want to see where some of those places find those players, because some academies I think get taken more seriously than others by their clubs, and you might not see the impact of that right away, but you might see it later.
Yeah.
I'd assume that St. Louis will have a really good academy, because the culture there is so much. It's like everyone else, only more so.
Yeah.
I would assume they'll have a very good academy, but I'm not sure. It depends on. I think some of it also depends on how much are they willing to put into it. The resources, the time. Doing the hard work where it's kind of thankless in the early days, especially because I don't think you always see those early returns. You'll hit your first batch of guys, and look at Atlanta. I mean, of the guys that came through the first batch of homegrowns, one of them, George Bello, stuck, and then he got sold, and now he is in purgatory in Armenia Bielefeld last check.
That is absolutely true.
I mean, but you still had some guys who went on and played. I know Lagos Kunga just came back stateside, but he was over. Yeah, but I want to say he was in Norway, I think.
Efforting. Now that you got me.
But you had a couple of those guys who had the chance to go play professionally. Andrew Carlton still playing professionally. Chris Goslin, I don't know. This was a talking point the other night, actually. But you're not always going to see those instant impacts. But you plant the seeds knowing that it grows underground and then it sprouts to the surface, and then you hope to get varying amounts of success out of it. That's tough.
Alhooms SC, and I'm trying to figure out where this side is. All right, so last place he played was Alhooms SC. So let me see if
Ricky Okonkwo is with Apotheos, and so is Jeffrey O2.
Who isn't at this point?
Yeah, man. Junior Sandoval's playing the 8 for that club, too, for those of you with Silverbacks history in your blood.
Libya. So Lagos Kunga was playing in Libya last season, or he was with a Libyan club last season, Alhooms SC.
Okay.
And then he went
from... He was in Scandinavia at one point.
Yeah,
it might have only been for a cup of coffee.
Before that, he was with Kristiansund for the tail end of their season, the second tier in Norwegian football. So he was in the second tier of Norwegian football. Then he went to go play, or then he was on the roster of without Club FC, and then he ended up with a Libyan side, and now he is back here with Des Moines Menace in League Two.
But I want to see how some of these places build out their academies, and yeah, it'll be interesting for me personally to see how much gets invested in the San Diego one. We'll see how much St. Louis does. We've started to see some returns from Charlotte. And Charlotte Crown has had a damn good start to the season in MLS Next Pro,
no doubt.
And some of some of that is doing what I think Atlanta did really well with some of their grabs, which is not necessarily just guys out of the academy, but you brought in guys like Chris Allen, guys who didn't come through your academy but kind of slipped through the cracks, and you're looking for those guys who might be 19, 20, 21 years old, who you can bring in to see if you can polish up a gym.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it.
Yeah. More stuff on Mansour and what to anticipate with at least a background with San Diego, allegedly, possibly, probably. Net worth of $3.6 billion. Founder and chairman of Man Capital, which in January of 21 became the majority shareholder in Nordsjælland. He also owns Right to Dream, a group of football academies based in Ghana, Egypt, and Denmark. As an entrepreneur, he invested in Facebook, Twitter, Uber, and Spotify. In their early days, other businesses include a global distributor of Caterpillar construction machinery. Man Capital is the second largest shareholder in the coffee chain Cafe Nero and backs a number of offshore wind projects. He was appointed by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as senior treasurer of the Conservative Party back in December. One of his firms, Unitrack, has donated more than £600,000 to the party. Mansour said in an interview last year, looking for an opportunity to buy MLS and English football clubs as a part of his global investment in the sport and build on the success of Nordsjælland. Is England on our radar? Definitely. Said that his interest in football generated by his uncle, who went to Glasgow University in the 1930s and played in goal for the Scottish team Queen's Park. So,
Queen's Park, who just missed out on promotion from the championship. Queen's Park is the third club in Glasgow, by the way. That's the answer to, if you're ever in Glasgow and someone asks you, are you a Rangers or Celtic fan? You say Queen's Park.
Queen's Park.
Because otherwise you're running a 50-50 chance to start something.
Yes.
It's just better to say Queen's Park and call it a day.
And have something started upon you.
Just say Queen's Park, and they don't even have a stadium. They're talking about building. It's actually a point of contention right now among some people, in that they want to make a cult team to play in one of the lower leagues with Celtic B and Rangers B, and people are like, "How about y'all get a stadium first?"
Mm-hmm.
Because that might be an idea for you to go and do that. To Ricky's point, Zion Jones is with Tromsø Il.
Actually, he's gone from Tromsø. He's with Ferencváros B.
Well, what I saw at last check was he's with Tromsø because he is on loan.
Okay.
From Ferencváros B.
Okay. All right. So Tromsø, Ferencváros B is Hungarian, by the way. Tromsø is where they are first tier Norway. So that's where Zion is. and that's where he's getting in his work these days. Mohamed Mansour, according to Ricky, is an Auburn University alum. You're always an Auburn. You're always an alum, unless I guess you disavow your school or something. But yeah, Auburn alum Mohamed Mansour is so that's what you're looking at with Mohamed Mansour, and probably possibly Thursday as the date for the Team 30 when it comes to Major League Soccer. So we're keeping an eye on that. This has been one of those mornings of where ish just happens, and so now we get this from Tommy Scoops. MLS has cleared Emmanuel Reynoso to return to team activities. He is now eligible for selection. Reynoso had been suspended by Major League Soccer for failing to show up for preseason, but arrived back in Minnesota this month 4 months late. So Emmanuel Reynoso back in the fold and cleared to return to team activities for Minnesota United. That comes from Tom Bogert this morning.
Yeah, okay, so this one was a weird one because I've never gotten a clear. I always got the vibe with this one that it's more complicated than he just was staying in Argentina for his own mental well-being or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those where it's easy for us to jump to conclusions, but I always kind of got the vibe that it was more than that. There were legal issues to unfold with that if you gloss over them, you're doing a disservice to the story. But Reynoso's back, and you know what? Credit the hell, man, to Minnesota and to Inchy, because they didn't sink without him.
Mm-hmm.
They may have fixed some of their striker issues as well. They didn't sink without him like I thought they would. It's damn good work from that squad.
Yep. So you've got that with Emmanuel Reynoso. Word from training this morning, Doug Robertson has not seen Amar Sejdic out with training with Atlanta United. But remember, Amar
got pulled up.
Yeah, he got a
limp in the first half.
Yeah, he got a knock and was subbed out in the early part of the second half. So keep an eye on that as we go. We do have assignments for the week, and let me see if I can find who is going to be doing what where. And obviously, with a short week, we got to know them really quick. Let's see that. We've got a bunch of stuff. I would have thought that we would have had our announcements, but by now. But I think Pro has come up with their announcements for tomorrow. That's just wild that it's actually tomorrow. So we'll see what it's looking like. Fotis Bazakis is going to be the man in the middle for United and Colorado. Your ARs, Adam Vinkowski and Mike Roddersman. Your fourth is Ian McKay. Kevin Broadley is your VAR. Jonathan Johnson is your AVAR. Tori Penso is in the middle for Charlotte and Chicago. Ismail Elfath is the fourth. Edvin Jurasevich is your VAR. Mark Allerton is in the middle for Cincinnati, Montreal. Ted Uncle is in the middle for Crew hosting Galaxy. Purple Team in NYC has Sergi Boyko. And Lucas Zapala gets to be yelled at as the fourth official for Orlando City and NYC. Jorge Gonzalez is your VAR.
Won't even be that bad.
Philadelphia.
It's if you really want to punish, the real person who was punished was the one who had to be the fourth when it was Pittsburgh and New England, because Bob Lilly and
Bruce Arena
just yelling at you sounds like an undiscovered 10th circle of hell where Dante went, oh, sorry, there was this door off to the side. We missed it. We opened it and went, nope.
Yep, exactly. Sergi Boyko in the middle for the Purple Team in NYC. Pierre-Luc Lozier for Philadelphia DC United. Alejandro Mariscal is your VAR. Toronto and Red Bulls. Guido Gonzalez Jr. is in the middle in Toronto. Soren Stoichka is your VAR. Dallas hosting Vancouver. John Freeman, no relation. Chris Penso is your VAR for that one in Frisco. Minnesota United, Marcus de Oliveira is the man in the middle with Malik Badawi as your VAR as they host Houston. Nashville hosting Inter Miami. Alex Chilowitz is in the middle. Matthew Nelson is your fourth. David Barry is your VAR. RSL in Portland. Remy Touchon is your ref. Joe Dickerson is your fourth. Your VAR is Daniel Radford. LAFC hosting Sporting. Armando Villarreal is your ref. Victor Rivas, your fourth. Jair Marufo is your VAR. Seattle and Austin at Lumen Field. Rosendo Mendoza is the man in the middle. And Yunus Marakchi is your VAR. So that's your rundown of your officials for the midweek magic that is Major League Soccer. But Fotis Bazakas is the man in the middle for Atlanta hosting Colorado. Your numbers on Bazakas, 6 matches, averaging 21 fouls a match, averaging 4.5 yellows a game, has not given a red card in his 6 matches this year. So when it comes to fouls, looks like he's kind of in the middle, maybe actually lower. It looks like he's going to let him play. So let's see. 126 fouls awarded. So who on a regular basis is below him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. That have called the same number of matches. So it looks like he's probably lower third in fouls awarded per match at 21. When it comes to yellow cards, looks like he's lower half as well. So that's what you're staring at with Fotis Bazakas. Not a whole lot of fouls called, not a whole lot of yellows. So that's by laws of averages, that's what you're staring at with Fotis Bazakas. And life in the middle with Colorado coming to town tomorrow. One of the things that I wanted to get into, Jarrett, this morning, we had more pitch invasions on the weekend. And the one involving Newcastle was pretty scary, where you had basically, so Leeds, at least they started out well. Leeds has handed a lifetime ban to the supporter who shoved Newcastle manager Eddie Howe. Ran onto the field, confronted Howe. Game was tied at 2. Dude comes out of the stands and starts bowing up to Eddie Howe. He's like he's pointing his finger at him and yelling at him right in the face. Eddie Howe was surprised and shocked. Dude put his hand on Eddie Howe, like literally like he wants to shove him off his left shoulder. So he pushes Howe. Stewards finally intervene and eject him. Jason Tyndall, the assistant for Eddie Howe, among those to chase the guy away from the sidelines. Eddie Howe after the match, and I know this won't surprise anybody. Quote, "For me, I've never experienced that before. So I was looking in the opposite direction, and he ran on and shouted something at me that I won't repeat. It was over in a flash, but it was the last thing you expect in that moment. And it's alarming for football, really, because we can't have that. The safety of everyone, coaching staff, players, is of paramount importance." Leeds released a statement from West Yorkshire Police. They charged the guy with assault entering the field of play following an incident. Man has been bailed to appear before the magistrates on July 21st. The folks who were there for Talk Sport, the guy who was calling the match, Sam Mataface. What on earth was that all about? He must be banned for life. There's no way that guy should come back into a football match, I'm afraid. Eddie Howe has done absolutely nothing for a start, but also he should feel safe in his technical area. That is disgusting behavior. That's true. 3 straight penalties and a red card in that one. But literally, once again, you've got folks coming onto the field, and the guy got hands on Eddie Howe before security got there. What in the ever-living hell is going on these days? And I think it speaks to what the hell is going on with security in some of these venues. And I mean, Barcelona, they were chased off the pitch as they were celebrating, they won La Liga. So Espanyol fans, as Barcelona's chart, they're celebrating center circle. Yay, we won. Yay. First league crown since 2019. So they're, whooping up center circle. Espanyol's South Stand fans come onto the pitch. Barcelona players and staff sprint for the tunnel. And they got to the tunnel before the Espanyol fans got there. Then the Espanyol fans stayed on the pitch, protesting their own board and asking them to resign. Espanyol's 19th in La Liga, 4 matches left in the season. They're in the relegation fight, 4 points from safety. Fans at the Espanyol match throwing chairs and fences toward the executive box. Police then asked fans to leave the pitch over the speakers, threatening to use violence to ensure the fans left, and then the fans did leave. Police also formed a protective cordon around the tunnel. Xavi said he told his players to leave before the Espanyol fans ran onto the pitch. Xavi says, quote, "I told them that was enough. It is normal to celebrate, to be euphoric, but we had to remember that we were not at home and have respect. In the end, these are emotions the players have. It's difficult to control. So I told them better to get into the dressing room." Luis Garcia, the head coach at Espanyol, condemned the actions of some. Everything was done to try to keep this from happening, but it wasn't possible. So in today's parts of stupidity down here, we had those 2 incidents happen this weekend.
I mean, yeah, it's a thing that happens. You get people in large groups, and then they get real brave real fast, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a thing that happens. Like, it's unfortunate, but it's a thing that happens. You get people in large groups, they get mad, they get really brave.
Yeah.
And then they start doing really stupid things. And so you end up with situations like that where at a certain point you're just thinking, how can we get everyone out of here safely? Without anything bad happening to them, because like we can be honest here for a second. Players are human beings. They are also, if you want to look at it from the ownership perspective, they are also investments.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real honest about that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want any person getting hurt, but also they don't want some player worth $20 million, getting hit by, Joe from the pub, who has a broken brick in his hand and has decided that he's going to take out his Saturday evening getting ruined by hitting someone with said brick.
Yeah.
So,
and Alex, morning, Alex. Hope you're doing well. Alex apparently was standing there talking with Darren at the early Saturday morning event. So Alex is standing there talking with Darren. You both turn and you see the guy getting pulled away. And I mean, if you're Darren and you're watching this on a television half a world away, I mean, that's just, it's crazy to think about these kinds of things. Ricky.
And Ricky, they're not thinking about the consequences of their actions.
No, they're not. They're
not
absolutely
one bit,
not. No, Ricky, I know these individuals aren't thinking when they do these stupid things, but the realization you won't ever get to come back and watch your team live has to come across your mind. It doesn't. I mean, not in that moment.
No.
Whatever courage you have assembled, liquid or otherwise, to get you to that moment where you want to sit there and get past the steward or multiple or stewards. And this is what gets me in this case. I mean, the Barcelona Espanyol thing, you're celebrating center circle, you've won, yay. And folks are bent out of shape, and they're gonna mass numbers are gonna outnumber stewards and all this kind of stuff. But this is one dude who got past the stewards, whatever the security setup was at Ellen Road. One dude who gets past stewards and gets enough of an activity behind him to where he gets to the bench and puts hands on Eddie Howe. puts hands on a Premier League manager, in this case, but any manager, but in this case, gets past the stewards, and however long it took for him to get onto the field, around the corner, down the touchline, to touch and lay hands on a Premier League manager for the entire world to see. Once again, you have these folks. I think in that moment that they have so much courage assembled, Ricky, whether liquid or otherwise. They're like, I'm going to show him how mad I am. I'm a true fan. Horse-ish. You're not a true fan when you do stuff like that. And frankly, I hope that both the West Yorkshire Police or whoever it is and the Premier League or Leeds or whomever throw the book. I mean, outside of the lifetime ban, big blanking deal. A lifetime ban. How are you going to enforce it? You get that James Dolan, Madison Square Garden face recognition technology that he was talking about, so folks can come into MSG and not say negative things about his New York Knicks. You get that? You're going to put wanted posters on every aisle and every gate entrance in every stadium in England? I literally don't know how you enforce this. You've got a lifetime ban. If I'm the guy, I'm like, ooh, catch me. How do you enforce it? Literally, how do you enforce it? I want to know. First off, the guy should be thrown under the jail because it's assault. First and foremost, it is assault. It's trespassing. It's assault. Whatever else you want to think of. Throw the book at the guy in July. Don't care. You get that kind of courage, you deserve what gets thrown at you in return. But what worries me in this case, and Coco says that people say it's wrong for Germany to have fences in the stands. Want to know who doesn't get pitch invaders? Germany. But then you get into Hillsborough and standing and being in pens and all of that kind of stuff. I know, Coco, I know where you're coming from, but you get folks in pens, and then it gets folks in England have Hillsborough on their minds, as they well should. But what worries me is the apparent ease to get around security. Yeah, morning, Tom. Yeah, it's been a busy morning. Yeah, we're celebrating. We're celebrating Folarin Balogun Day, and we're also yelling at stupidity down here in Spain and England. But no, throw the book at the guy. I'm done. And you know, and it was good to see Darren at the tailgate on Saturday. Alex, another notable takeaway from his conversation. Asked if Callum Wilson was as beautiful in person as he is in camera, says absolutely. On camera. So hot. Yeah. Yeah, Coco. Pens are one thing. Fences between the stands and the field are another. Hey, and Alex, with my keyboard, I've got the fattest fingers on the planet, so I know I'm right there with you. But now, Jared, it's just these incidents keep happening and happening and happening. And for me, enforcement, when you charge them, that's my biggest issue. It really is.
Yeah. It's you've had enough incidents now, though, that things don't seem to be changing.
No,
so it's kind of hard.
That they learn.
Well, that's the thing, is you're to this point now where like things haven't changed. So what you're left with is like, okay, we've tried to enforce bans, we've tried to enforce legal charges against them, and things still continue to happen. So what more do you have to do?
Yeah.
And then put plexiglass up, put netting up or something. I don't know. Make them work for it if they're going to get on the field.
Yeah. If you're going to work, if you're going on the field, you got to work for it.
You got to earn it.
Yeah.
Oh, he got on the field. Well, he climbed over plexiglass and through a net. He went through basically an American Gladiators course to get on the field.
Yeah.
So Yeah, do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, obviously it's a big day tomorrow with Colorado coming to town, especially after what happened in the weekend. You gotta snap back on this, and it will be interesting to see what the lineup looks like. And because if there's no Sadich or a limited Sadich, no Gutman, no Wiley, what's it going to look like? And so that for me is the short version in all of this. Also out of Kansas City this morning. Let's see. There is
not going to be anybody getting fired. I promise you that.
No, it is a FIFA World Cup 2026 major announcement. Thursday morning after we are off the air, they're listing it as what? Major announcement regarding FIFA World Cup 2026 in Kansas City. So
Who,
it is
where, when, why, how?
It is, yes, exactly. It's at Jihad Field at Arrowhead, and a lot of muckety mucks are there. Mayor, 2 governors, Clark Hunt, Cliff Illig, the principal owner for Sporting, Kathy
and
Nelson.
5 golden rings.
Yes. So big announcement apparently on behalf of the Kansas City Sports Commission for Thursday in Kansas City in 2026. So there's that's going on this morning too.
I wonder, I would assume that Kansas City's not the answer to this question, but I wonder if Kansas City is put in for the broadcast center.
That could be. I know that Atlanta wants it, and Kansas City, have they? Dallas, have they? So we'll see what happens. I mean, you figure it's some combination of my guess is that for 26, what do you figure that it might be something to do with Arrowhead, that they're going to renovate in time for 26 and make it soccer lovely for 2026? That's what I'm. That's if it's at Arrowhead, you're thinking it might have to be something Arrowhead based, and so they're going to take the. You're looking at the current stadium on the waterfront. You're looking at Sporting as your little practice facilities, and you're playing at Arrowhead and Jihad. So that'd be my guess. It could be game assignments, Ricky. That could be right in there. Let's see. So We Are 26 is being launched from FIFA. The brand, the official FIFA World Cup 2026 TM brand to be launched in Los Angeles tomorrow. The We Are 26 campaign launched today, revealing the faces and places of the 16 host cities and inviting fans to get involved. And quoting our friends at FIFA, 16 bespoke host city brands developed by FIFA in an unprecedented initiative to unite fans across the continent. So, mazel tov to you. 7:30 local time in Los Angeles, one of the 16 host cities, a star-studded show with guest performances live streamed to the whole world on FIFA Plus. And FIFA, never one to be modest. Anticipation has already started building as FIFA, the 2026 host countries, and the event's commercial partners launched #WeAre26 today, a campaign that will empower people, places, and communities to play an integral role in introducing the FIFA World Cup 2026 TM official brand. So whatever a bespoke host city brand is, it's being revealed today. So more countries and teams and cities, most inclusive and diverse sporting event ever. Of course. Okay. So Ricky is doing great producer work this morning. So Ricky is on fire. According to the local media in Kansas City is going to get $50 million from the state of Missouri for FIFA World Cup preparation. The city had initially requested 4 $12.5 million installments annually leading up to the World Cup. Jihad was selected last summer as one of the host cities. Several Kansas City area senators asked and said for the full appropriation in one lump sum during the budgeting process. Arrowhead will require significant modifications to the seating bowl to accommodate a soccer field that meets World Cup specs and other changes at a cost of roughly $50 million or more. So there you go. So it looks like that you might have the $50 million going to renovate Jiha, or Arrowhead as we know it. So renovations at Arrowhead. They're going to be announced on Thursday. Hi, $50 million to renovate this to make it soccer friendly at Jiha. So that's probably what it's going to be in Kansas City. So we'll see what happens there as we go. We got plenty of stuff this morning. This was initially going to be my opening kickoff, but no, actually, tell you what. Let me before I go to opening kickoff. Bielsa has agreed to take over as Uruguayan manager. That'll be interesting. But Sean Engel at The Guardian. This was what I was going to get at. In addition to stupidity over there, the Professional Footballers Association has sought legal advice over whether players attacked by supporters can use reasonable force to defend themselves.
Buddy, that would it would change the game a bit in terms of confrontations, but my concern is that it would also escalate things, because somebody from down at the pub or somebody's dad starts getting in a fight with a player, and look, we've had this discussion before.
Mm-hmm.
Do not fight pro athletes.
No!
Do not fight pro athletes. One of the greatest miracles in modern times is that the Malice at the Palace did not end with a death.
Whew.
Because you don't fight pro athletes. Their entire job is to be bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
And actually, yesterday was the anniversary, by the way, of Rafael Odor punching Jose Bautista's lights out in the middle of a baseball game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, don't fight pro athletes.
Well, but
the problem with this becomes, if you escalate that to, yes, correct, don't fight pro athletes. If you escalate that to, well, pro athletes can use a reasonable force, I worry that it escalates further where someone says, I'm going to fight that pro athlete, but I know he can fight. So I'm going to bring my friend Mr. A Knife with me.
Yeah.
And then I worry you get into some very, very dangerous escalations.
That and the litigious nature of society these days, where, I was just out there and I did this, and then he took a swing at me, and look at all the hurt that he caused. Engel continues, it's understood there's a growing concern among PFA members over an apparent lack of legal protections for players, and also what would constitute reasonable force if a player feels under threat during a crowd invasion. PFA has promised in an email to its members to back its players if there's any incident. From the email, quote, as your trade union, we are here to support you, and we've taken legal guidance on your rights in the event of mass pitch invasions such as those that occurred last year. Harassments, assaults, and attacks by spectators are never justified, and they are never the, quote, fault, end quote, of the player. It's understood particular concerns were raised after the court case involving Ollie McBurney following, you'll remember, the Nottingham Forest Sheffield game last year, where Billy Sharp was assaulted and Ollie McBurney stamps on a fan, and McBurney was eventually cleared of stamping on him in that case. Several other players attacked or harassed by spectators. Pitch invasions last year when Everton avoided relegation from the Prem, leading players to express a lack of confidence in the effectiveness of stewarding and the management of pitch invasions. Last July, Prem, EFL, and the FA announced pitch invaders would be banned from stadiums and reported to police. Incidents have continued this year. Bradford's Andy Cook was confronted. Aaron Ramsdale kicked at by the Tottenham fan who made his way to the perimeter barrier. You remember that one? So, frankly, one of the things that I always enjoyed. Nick, you should be able to defend yourself always, but once again, someone these days, someone will come up with some kind of a reason. Oh, he hurt me, he broke this, and I deserve to get
it's
care of. And
to an extent, yeah, it is F around and find out. If you go after a player, he has the right to defend himself. My concern remains that what you end up with after that is people saying, I'm going to go after that player, but I'm not going empty-handed. And then you end up with the potential for severe injuries.
Yeah.
Because people have shown that they will not control themselves. They have actively chosen not to control themselves.
Yep. Absolutely.
And if they want to say otherwise, you call them out on it.
Yep. And So you've got that. And one of the things that I have always liked, and it's an old NFL Films thing. Do you remember when the Baltimore Colts played at Memorial Stadium?
No, I was born in 1988.
I didn't, but I mean, if you, it's an old NFL clip where idiot Baltimore fan comes on the field, and Mike Curtis of the Baltimore Colts sees this idiot fan, and I think the guy actually picked up the football and starts to run away with it. And he's running toward Mike Curtis. Mike Curtis with the Colts in the late 60s, early 70s was a badass. Curtis sees the guy pick up the football. Curtis lowers his shoulder and plows him and blows him up. That, to me, is literally an F around and find out moment. You want to go onto the football field. You want to grab the football and you want to try to run away with it from the two groups of players that are about ready to snap the ball and have a play. Mike Curtis blowing you up. That was awesome. And Curtis, and
it is, but it's also,
I deserved it.
It's also a sort of thing where, like, you see it now when people run on the field, like players. Sometimes you'll see a player just decide, I'm not dealing with this. I'm going to end this myself. But a lot of times they won't.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times what you will see is you'll see them step away from it because it's not worth the potential for getting hurt.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is always when stuff like this happens, when players do when fans do I regret everything. No, you regret that it ended poorly because you didn't regret it in the time. And you've seen so many people. It's not like you were a one-off issue. You've seen so many people do this. You've made a decision in that moment to charge the field.
Mm-hmm.
You're responsible for your own problems.
Yes, absolutely you are.
And with that, I bow out for the day, unfortunately. But yeah, you are responsible for, you're responsible for your own problems, your own decision making.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with Jason. Like, guys should be able to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, the thing that really aggravates me about it is you get some people debating it who will try and downplay, like, oh, they're just running on the field having a good time. You're overreacting to it. I'm like, ask Monica Seles, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the reason you put zero tolerance on stuff like this is because all it takes is one time.
Mm-hmm. All
it takes is one time where somebody runs on the field and tries to shank somebody.
Yeah.
Or they start, and we've seen them throw stuff before. God, one of the Argentine games, someone ripped the basin out of the toilet basin out of the bathroom and threw the toilet on the field. I mean, you have to have zero tolerance about it because all it takes is if you excuse it, it starts moving the line.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the line starts shifting to what is acceptable, perhaps, or what you think is worthy of punishment. That's not okay.
So, no. All right, we'll catch
up.
We'll
do whip around tomorrow.
We'll do whip around tomorrow, 9:00 hour. The show is inverted.
Buddy, we will.
Yeah, the show is inverted tomorrow, so the whip around's in the 9:00 hour. And then we have Dylan Butler joining us at 10, Bart joining us at 10:30 to follow up on Folarin Balogun Day. Happy Folarin Balogun Day. Just look at his Instagram because he has now posted the USA crest on his Instagram and on his Instagram story. Yeah, or a player actually gets hurt. So here is a link for those of you that may have never seen it. Like I said, it's a great NFL Films moment. And I don't know, how many folks could get away with it today, but it was when Mike Curtis passed, I want to say a year and a half ago. December 11, 1971, drunken fan races onto the field, tried to run off with the game ball. When Curtis realized what was happening, broke from the huddle, leveled the fan, and asked about it after the game. Curtis said he wasn't supposed to be on the field. Wasn't supposed to be on the field. 2016 interview, he goes, I tell you what, didn't give it any thought. What I didn't want was our team to be distracted because of something outside the game, what we needed to do. I was the captain, and I just needed to make sure we weren't distracted by anything that would affect our game. And Curtis was also asked, I think at the time, and Curtis goes, I was upholding a city ordinance. So my biggest thing in all of this, that's wild, Nix. That really is wild. Security and enforcement. It's great that you want to give somebody a lifetime ban. It's great that you want to charge them with whatever, but that these guys, they're going to whomever invades the pitch, they're going to get tossed. They're going to get put in jail. They're going to go with their friends at the local pub, and they're going to sit there and wear it like a badge of honor. Yeah, look what I did. And they're going to try to find ways to get back into these matches over and over and over again. For me, it's enforcement. If you give a lifetime ban, you got to figure, if it's IDs and QR codes, that might help. But to keep all of this nonsense out of the game, it's great that the union wants to stand up for their players. It's great that you want to have all of these other elements attached to it. Charge them to the fullest extent of the law. That's fantastic. Go ahead and do it. But I want to know how you enforce it. I really do. Really want to know. Now, like I said, that's always going to be my biggest thing. More on Emmanuel Reynoso returning. Once again, this is from our friends at The Athletic, now that Tommy Scoops is over there. Reynoso has not appeared in any MLS matches with Minnesota after the league announced in February Reynoso was suspended without pay for failing to report to preseason camp. Before the season, The Athletic spoke with multiple sources around the club who spoke anonymously given the sensitivity of Reynoso's situation. Sources independently estimated that he sent 3 sentences worth of communication to the team between January and February, with many attempts to contact him being left unanswered. Return to the club May 6. Unclear when he'll return in a match. And so that's what you're looking at. So that's the early returns on the return of Emmanuel Reynoso. Here's opening kickoff. Here's where we are. Because of everything that broke this morning, now it's the opening kickoff. No, nothing like inverting your show entirely. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's the QR code for those of you watching on Twitch, in addition to the Eliminize QR code, by the way. And if you go to Kickoff Coffee, thanks to everyone who has so far. And once again, use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I don't know if you saw this. It's in the Telegraph. From Luke Edwards. Headline, Carlos Tevez, I refused to learn English because the Falklands War turned my uncle into an alcoholic. That's the Luke Edwards headline. Article. Carlos Tevez has revealed he refused to learn to speak English during his time in the Premier League as he blamed the country for his uncle's descent into alcoholism after fighting in the Falklands War. Did it in an interview with D Sports Radio back home in Argentina, said he had a cultural problem with the English. 39-year-old was so resolute in his refusal to speak English that he even told teammates they would have to learn Spanish to converse with him. UK went to war with Argentina in 1982 after they invaded the Falklands in a bid to reclaim their lost territory, which Britain had claimed in 1833. War lasted just over 2 months, Britain reclaiming the islands by forcibly retaking them. A total of 649 Argentinian troops were killed, another 1,657 wounded, while 255 British soldiers lost their lives and another 775 wounded. Tevez said, quote, I had a cultural problem with the English. I didn't want to learn English. I wanted them to learn Spanish. I have an uncle who played in River Plate. He's the only River supporter in my family. Played in the reserve team, and when he was going to make his debut with the first team, he got called up to fight in the Falklands War. He suffered after that and became an alcoholic. That marked me a lot because he was very close to me. Tevez spent 7 years playing in the Prem. Won 2 league titles with United, one at City, before signing with Juve in 2013. Quote, okay, I'm here for work. but I'm not getting used to English culture, he said. You want to speak to me, then you learn Spanish because I'm not going to learn English. Very few people know this story, but today I can tell it. It's not the first time that Tevez has voiced his displeasure at living in England. Manchester, quote, has nothing, quote, and is very expensive, he said back in 2011, adding, I'm never going back to Manchester, not even on holiday, not for anything. Tevez left United for City in 2009, and compatriot Pablo Zabaleta said he tried to get the striker to speak more of the language while at the club. Quote, Carlos tries sometimes to speak English, Zabaleta said in 2009. I said to him he needs to come to me for lessons. It's important because we need to speak with teammates and managers. So Carlos Tevez now letting us know why he refused to speak English. Very, very, it's an interesting story by Luke Edwards at The Telegraph. Yep. And for those in the Twitch pitch, very nice. Yeah. Two pictures, one on top of the other. One is the fan getting after Eddie Howe, and then when the guy's face is being taken away by security, they've put Steve Bruce's face on the guy who was getting in Eddie Howe's face. Yes, of course. So that's okay. Yeah, that at least, I mean, yes, it's good to have a sense of humor about it, but at the same time, I think that it speaks to larger issues. We really haven't even talked about Mauricio Pochettino and Chelsea yet. I mean, Pochettino and Chelsea, and he wants to bring in Victor Osimhen now as a part of everything. Real Madrid want Jude Bellingham, Mbappe, and Alphonso Davies this summer. Of course they do. They all do. Sadio Mane, Joao Cancelo, apparently not expected to stay beyond the summer with Bayern Munich, according to Sky Germany. But, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that is out there. It looks like Hugo Lloris is leaving in the summer. Spurs might be chasing after David Raya. Spurs also might be chasing after Thomas Frank, the manager at Brentford. And I think that Brentford needs to do whatever they can to hang on to Thomas Frank. Whatever they can. Whatever they absolutely can to hang on to Thomas Frank. Because if they don't, then that could that could spell trouble for Brentford in the Premier League because of, okay, who do you want to try and bring in? That would be the next question. Update from Doug Robertson of the AJC about Amar Sejdic. Out several weeks because of a calf injury suffered in the first half. So Amar Sejdic, obviously you won't have him for Colorado, but he's going to be out a couple of weeks. So keep an eye on what the midfield's going to look like now for Atlanta United. Amar Sejdic has been having a hell of a year. So we'll see what happens. Does this mean that Johnny Fortune gets minutes? Time for Johnny Fortune to get minutes with the first team to help contribute. We'll see if we see that as a part of this now. But Amar Sejdic out a couple of weeks with that calf injury that he suffered in the first 45 against Charlotte on the weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also on the board this morning before we go, Arsenal has approved £200 million for summer spending. £200 million. And they say that it's not just out of straight investment. It's because of what they've been able to do in finishing with their run in Europe that has contributed, that has helped make it that number. They're set to open £90 million Declan Rice talks with West Ham. According to The Guardian, Chelsea's lining up the summer move for Victor Osimhen. So Pochettino wants to bring in a striker and has the funds to strengthen the squad. Osimhen has also been linked to Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Report also claims that Inter Milan forward Lautaro Martinez and Brentford striker Ivan Toney are also on the Chelsea shortlist. If you lose Ivan Toney and then you lose David Raya, then Thomas Frank, you got to keep an eye on all this stuff. Wolves are ready to demand £45 million for Ruben Neves, who's got just over a year remaining on his contract at the Molineux, being targeted by Barcelona, among other clubs. Brentford have opened talks over a move for South Korean defender Jisoo Kim. That's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Leicester have 2 championship managers on their radar if they move on from Dean Smith at the end of the year. Once again, it's the four-letter newspaper. Swansea's Russell Martin, Jon Dahl Tomasson from Blackburn. Wrexham are going to hold talks with Ben Foster. You got us up to League 2. Can you hang out with us a little while longer? So they'll see. I think they can get promoted out of League 2 next season. I think they can. League 1, that's when the business is going to be. That's when business is going to pick up. I think you can get out of League 2, but then you're serious. You want to get into the League 1 and the Championship. That's when business is going to pick up. So stare at that one for a while. But Alex. Yeah, and Alex, we look at these price tags. The intra-league transactions in the Premier League, by nature, I think are overinflated when it could just price tags, not ability-wise, but price tags. The intra-league transfers, those are going to have massive price tags attached to them just because of self-worth, and you know that's what it's going to be. Mario Balotelli, according to the three-letter paper, was branded a zombie by former Switzerland assistant manager Michel Pont after his side Sion's 5-0 defeat by Servette on Saturday. Balotelli taken off at halftime, and the club sacked manager David Batoni on Monday. Jordi Cruyff leaving his role as Barcelona sporting director this summer to face new challenges, end quote. Four-letter paper says that Southampton are braced to receive offers from James Ward-Prowse, even though his current deal does not include a relegation release clause. Top 5 in 4 categories in the Premier League, despite Southampton's place dead last and being relegated. James Ward-Prowse, top 5 in chances created, interceptions, passes completed in the opposition half, and crosses attempted. He's also scored 8 goals this season. Meanwhile, the Mirror also reports Mislav Orsic appears set to become the first one out with a return to Dinamo Zagreb on the cards. In Scotland, some of the Scottish top referees are being encouraged to retire from match action early to become VAR specialists. Remember, we've talked about that here in Major League Soccer. Looks like Scotland's beating us to it. Greek club Aris have directly addressed Rangers' interest in Luis Palma. Very strong competition, they say. Josh McPake has returned to Rangers for 1 more year on his Ibrox contract. Motherwell boss Stuart Kettlewell wants his 2 short-term signings, Mikhail Mandrin and Jonathan Obika, to stay. Malik Tillman's adamant he will not rush a decision over a potential £5 million permanent move to Rangers, saying he first needs to find out what plans, if any, Bayern Munich have for him. Dundee United has dismissed suggestions made by Craig Levine that former sporting director Tony Ashgar, a figure reviled by Tannadice fans before his departure in February, is still involved with the club in some capacity. Avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers, as we are always want to do. Guardian, once again, we mentioned Victor Osimhen. Daily Mirror, Kim Min-jae from Napoli decided to join Manchester United this year. So we'll keep an eye on Kim Min-jae. Negotiations also include a move for Victor Osimhen. West Ham considering appointing former Liverpool chief Michael Edwards as their new director of football. PSG have identified Manchester City star Bernardo Silva as the replacement for Messi. Telegraph, we mentioned Hugo Lloris. It looks like he could be heading to Saudi Arabia. Mauricio Pochettino likes to keep a tray of lemons in his office after an Argentine friend told him they absorb negative energy. That I did not know. negative energy absorbed by lemons, and he believes he has the ability to see an aura around people. I do too. I mean, you can look at somebody and you can see when they've got the black cloud over them or when they have the glow around them. So, no, I can get that. I understand the idea of seeing an aura around folks. We mentioned Ruben Neves. Let's see, avoiding the three-letter paper. And we mentioned Mohamed Mansour this morning. Let's see. Looking at Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo, meaning Arsenal. Scottish Sun, we mentioned that with the officials and everybody else on the board. So let's see what other player movement we have. Once again, before we go, now that we're in added time, we'll go over what's on TV coming up in just a little bit before we go. Obviously, it's the second leg in the Derby della Madonnina later today. It is, let's see, 90 million. We talked about Moises Caicedo, Kim Min-jae. Brighton's Alexis has been linked with Liverpool. Manchester United wants to join a Champions League club. Mauricio Pochettino set to hold talks with Mason Mount over extending his contract, which expires in 2024. Crystal Palace, three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Close to signing Roy Hodgson to another one-year contract. Newcastle's interest in RB Leipzig's midfielder Dominik Szoboszlai has a 70 million euro release clause in the contract. It's intensified. No contact between the clubs. Newcastle also interested in Conor Gallagher. Face competition for Tottenham for Leicester's James Maddison. That's the four-letter paper. Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund want Edson Alvarez, whom Ajax could be prepared to sell for £30 million. Manchester United's Phil Jones and Axel Tuanzebe are expected to be released this summer. United also considering a move for Borussia Dortmund's keeper Gregor Kobel, although the German club intend to offer him a new contract. Guardian, West Ham looking to appoint a director of football to ease the demands on sporting director Mark Noble and reduce the influence of manager David Moyes. West Ham are also monitoring Valencia's Yunus Musa, four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Brentford could sign Freiburg's 29-year-old keeper Mark Flecken, who has a 13 million euro release clause in his deal. And Tottenham have held talks with Roma sporting director Thiago Pinto about their director of football role. Stuff on the TV today, and we'll lay it all out for you because you know the Champions League is going to be on about 38 different channels and doing 38 different things. Being in Espanol, 1 o'clock. Super League in Turkey, Istanbulspor, and Galatasaray. If you don't get BN under normal circumstances, you can go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here, and you can help out the show a little bit, help yourself out with all the programming that they have. TEC, BN, Gold TV, For the Fans, a lot of different networks. You can pick that up on Fanatis. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. CBS at 3 o'clock. Big CBS. Inter and Milan. 2 3 o'clock. Univision, 3 o'clock. MLS Season Pass and Apple TV. The Flex U17 is going on right now. Albion, SC out of San Diego, and CF Montreal have just started. Barca and Seattle Sounders at 1:30. Promotion playoffs in the championship. Luton Town has some work to do if they're going to get past Sunderland at 3 o'clock. And League One tonight. One Knox and Chattanooga Red Wolves are at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, and Paramount Plus also has Inter and Milan at 3 o'clock. So very, very busy morning. Went all over the place, as it always does. We had updates on everything in Atlanta United. We had stuff with USL Super League. And like I said, we're efforting Steve Livingston out of Jacksonville, and we'll get his thoughts on the USL Super League and what's going on there. Folarin Balogun in a statement to U.S. Soccer, quote, "In the end, it became a no-brainer, but for sure it's just something I wanted to, and it feels like I'm at home here. To represent the U.S. means a lot more than people would know." And Anthony Hudson, quote, "Not only is he an extremely talented player, he's also a good man who's going to add value to our national team, both on and off the field at a time when the team is continuing to improve," end quote. So happy Folarin Balogun Day for those of you who are going to celebrate and observe. Please celebrate and observe. Yeah, Alex, there is. Albion SC, they're in Nisa right now. They are in Nisa, and they were in the NPSL, but they are in Nisa, Albion SC San Diego. So, yeah, they've been very, very successful. They were very, very successful in the West and the Western Conference in the NPSL. They made the move up to Nisa, and so that's currently where they are. So, Nisa side, Albion SC San Diego. So, there you go. That's a show. So we talked about San Diego's MLS bid. We talked about all the gossip, rumor, and innuendo overseas. We talked about pitch invaders and how dangerous that is. We went through the official assignments. We'll talk to Bart Keeler tomorrow about VAR and Howard Webb and the Premier League and how we're never going to see that here and all the other stuff that we talked about this morning with Folarin Balogun signing to be a part of the USMNT. At Soccer for USPOD for Bart, at Bartimus Prime 19 for Bart, all that other stuff. So we'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05. The show will be inverted because it is a match day, Wednesday. So the weekend whip around will be a midweek whip around starting at 9:05. And we'll have Dylan Butler, hopefully 10 o'clock, Bart Keeler coming on for his normal visit, and another episode of Reffing down here at 10:30. So that's another show. Thanks for hanging out with us. We went a little added time. Play it safe, everybody. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, 9:05, for another busy SDH. Thanks for hanging out.